So this is for wrist flexion. The normal range of motion is 85 degrees. The axis of rotation is the triquetrum. The stationary arm is the ulna, and the mobile arm is the fifth metacarpal. So his forearm's on the table, kind of with palm facing up, and he's going to flex his wrist towards himself. Flex your wrist. Wow, you have very good flexion. Okay. He got about 90 degrees. The muscles that perform wrist flexion are the flexor carpi radialis and ulnaris, the palmaris longus, and the flexor digitorum. You can end it.
Oh.
This is the manual muscle test for the brachialis. The origin is the midshaft of the anterior humerus. The insertion is the coronoid process of the ulna, and the action is elbow flexion. So I have my partner sitting with his legs off the table, his elbow bent 90 degrees with his elbow at his side, and his palm facing down. So I'm going to put one hand at his shoulder and one hand at his wrist, and I'm going to resist his flexion for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he would get a good score. This is the range of motion for hip flexion. The normal range is 120 degrees. The axis of rotation is the greater trochanter. The stationary arm is the midline of the pelvis, and the mobile arm is aligned with the lateral epicondyle of the femur. So I have my partner lying supine. He's going to bring his hip towards his chest as much as he can. The muscles that perform this are the iliopsoas, the tensor fascia lata, and the sartorius. So, let me just make sure. Okay, go ahead. Oh. So his range was about 100 degrees. This is the manual muscle test for the semimembranosus and tendinosus muscles. The origin is the ischial tuberosity. The insertion is the medial tibia, and it performs hip extension, knee flexion, and internal rotation. So I have my partner prone, and he's going to flex his knee to 90, and he's going to internally rotate his foot. There we go. So toes in, and I'm going to put both my hands at his ankle and push down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he'll get a 4 because he did lift his hips a little bit, but there we go. Okay, so this is the range of motion for cervical side bending. So the axis of rotation is the spinous process of the C7 vertebrae. The stationary arm is perpendicular to the floor, and the mobile arm is aligned with the occipital protuberance. And the muscles that perform this are the sternocleidomastoid and the erector spinae. So he's going to sit up straight, his head in a neutral position, and I'll line it up. That's good. And then he's going to side bend. Normal range is 45 degrees, and he got 30. This is the manual muscle test for the quadratus lumborum. The origin is the iliac crest, and the processes of L1 through L4. The insertion is rib 12, and the action is lateral flexion of the trunk. So I have my partner lying supine with his hands holding onto the side of the table, and he's going to hike his pelvis up towards himself. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to hold this leg that's hiked up and hold down for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he'd get a 5.